Hey traders, this is Cousin Vinny coming to you on Sunday, June the 12th at 8 p.m. with a quick look at the markets. Wow, that was a big one. Boom, right to 1265. It'll be interesting to see what that was all about. At any rate, let's take a look at the markets. We've had some speculation over the past week that we might see a breakdown of this lower trend line or a bounce. Obviously, we got the breakdown on Monday. We gapped down to the 150 period moving average, and I was looking at the 1260 area for a possibility of a test. Okay, looks like we're getting closer and closer to that. That was 7% as of Thursday, I believe, and a lot of people are looking at the possibility of a breakdown to the 200 EMA or 200 period moving average. I, like a few people that I know, disagree with that thought only because everybody's looking at us going lower, and we don't have a big move lower, or higher rather, on the VIX like we did back in March, which signaled a lot of fear in the market. So therefore, along with a few other indicators, I'm not looking for the S&P to move much lower. This is a measure of puts and call buying on the S&P 500. Okay, so I am watching the VIX, I'm watching the S&P, and I am mostly in cash with a few small positions in FTNT, which I'm looking at the 50 period moving average as support. If we break through that, I'll just possibly take that out. We do have a gap fill area here at 21, so I'll be watching that area. Okay, for to get back in for the net if we break down to that level. I'm watching for a bounce along with the S&P. I also have a small position in Sprint that I was watching for a retest of this breakout area that we saw on this extensive cup and handle pattern here, where we broke higher, we failed, and we came back down. Okay, I also have another small position in EK, which I got back into on Friday after selling, as we peaked at this candle here, and we didn't move much lower. We didn't test the 200, so I got back in at the close on EK. So I only have 1,000 shares there. It's no big deal for me. I am fully able to take a move down to 309 in that area if that should happen. Okay, so that's EK. Now back to the indexes. I have been watching the Qs as well. We had this ascending triangle that I was hoping would break higher, and we didn't. We moved right down through, sliced through the 150 and came down to the 200. We're oversold. We can stay down there oversold for some time. So with the VIX again, I am not too concerned that we're going to make a crash here. I'm more of the mindset that we're going to bounce. Looking at the Russell 2000, this is also in the same neighborhood of the 200 EMA with oversold stochastics. We could come down and test the 200 EMA, and I would expect a bounce at that point. So I'm watching all these indexes. I'm mostly in cash, so I'm not leaning one way or the other. If we break down through the 200 EMA, I will evaluate that as a trading opportunity. If we start to bounce, I'll be looking at that as well for a trade long. But for now, this is a reflection of the risk on trade, which for the most part people are getting out of risky positions in the Russell and small cap stocks in general. So that's the indexes. Now looking at the dollar, you can see that we're oversold and turning higher. This is one trade that I may get into during the week. We're at the 20 and the 50, the blue line here, the dark blue and the light blue being the median of the Bollinger Bands, okay, which is a 20 EMA, 20 moving average. So looks like we tested that on Friday and we pulled off of it a little bit, but not much. Moving over to commodities, gold. I'm watching this level here to see what happens if the dollar moves lower. It's likely that gold will break this upper trend line, but if gold continues higher, or excuse me, UUP moves higher, we could see a move down in gold. As it relates to commodities, you also want to see the Aussie dollar move in relation to the US dollar. You want to see this move higher, okay? It's currently moving down into oversold territory. The 100 EMA is just below. This lower Bollinger Band is within distance that it could check that area, and we could see a little bit of a move lower with the momentum working in that direction. Also with the dollar moving higher, that would affect gold and the Aussie dollar. So in addition to that, the weekly moving average, we've lost that 10 EMA, which I've told you many times that this is what big funds tend to look at and staying in a trade or getting out of a trade when we break down and we don't get back above that average fairly soon. Now the Aussie dollar relative to the S&P is moving higher, just a note of that. In addition to that, we have DBV, which is a reflection of the carry trade where investors and big funds are borrowing from countries where interest rates are low and lending it out in countries where interest rates are high. Note that we made a high here, okay, on DBV, and we made a lower high on DBV with stochastics getting back to the overbought territory and turning lower, okay. With DBV, the significance is you want to see this move higher if you want equities to move higher as well. For the time being, we are between the 100 EMA and the 200 EMA. So I'm not seeing, I'm not going to take a trade on this information alone. It's just something to know that DBV should move higher if you want equities to move higher as well. Emerging markets, you can see that we had a lower high here as well. Same thing as with the DBV. We had oversold or overbought territory and we moved lower. We're down on the 200 EMA and we did test it. You can see we have a little bit of a shadow here. I'll be watching EEM on Monday and this week to see how this moves forward. So with the dollar possibly moving higher, I'm looking for gold to move lower. The 20 EMA is just below us. We tagged the upper Bollinger Band. The moving averages are moving higher, but with the dollar at a low, it looks like it may have bottomed. I would look for a move lower in commodities, okay? Looks like we formed a bottom here, a higher low here with stochastics oversold and moving higher. So notice the 8 EMA or 10 EMA right under the price, okay? So I'll be watching the 10 EMA for support on this move higher. As it continues to move higher, I'm expecting this 10 EMA to move up with it. Once we break down through it like we did here, that would be my sell signal. So I may take some a spread on UUP, which doesn't move a whole lot, but you can make a nice trade off of it. Okay, and what you also want to think about, if the dollar rolls over here, that is bad for equities. Typically you want to see the opposite, or they trade the opposite, but with a move lower in the dollar, it's showing some weakness in the markets, and you might get some panic selling there. So it's just something to be aware of. So back to GLD, and I'll also be looking at SLV. We are in this range, and we're right at the 20 EMA and 100 EMA, with stochastics looking like it wants to turn lower. If the dollar keeps rallying higher, I would tend to see this move down to this lower support area here. Okay. If we lose 31, the 3160, 70 area, I could see this moving lower quickly. Note the Fibonacci's here as well. I just reversed the fibs, so don't get confused what I did there. So if we break down and lose this lower level here, I would look for this to move down to the 127 extension, which free stock charts doesn't show you, but I can tell you it's right in this area of the 200 EMA. So that would be the first point that I'd be looking at. Okay, maybe a little bit lower than the 200 EMA. But I'm watching this closely to see what happens with the 100 EMA. That said, I looked at a number of gold stocks that looked good for either a possibility of a bounce or a move lower off of these pivot points. If we lost that, I would take this short. If we bounced, I would take it long. Okay. AEM looks like it could move lower, but stochastics are oversold, so we could get a bounce here as well. AUY oversold. Same thing with Yamana Gold. We poked down through. Notice the Bollinger Bands are moving opposite of each other, which shows there could be weakness further. Note the 10 EMA is cruising down very quickly. EGO was one I was looking at on Thursday. On this move up, I was hoping it would get back up to the 10 EMA where I would have bought puts and traded this lower. Even though we were oversold, I'm still seeing weakness, and we're in a descending channel. Okay. Rand Gold, GOLD, looking for this to move lower as well. It's getting caught up here in the 20 EMA or MA, and all of the other MAs right above it. Okay, acting as resistance. Whenever you have MAs above price, that tends to be resistance. MAs below price tend to be support, and you trade accordingly. GRZ just kept going. We looked at it on Friday, or excuse me, on Wednesday, Thursday with these candles here, and it jumped quite substantially. Cheap stocks, I wouldn't trade this, but it must be some event-driven or news-driven occurrence. Gold Corp, we talked about this head and shoulders, and on Thursday, sitting right on the 150 EMA, we're also saw a candle here where we're sitting on the same, tested to 200. We're oversold. I would look for this actually to bounce if the dollar can roll over and move lower. So that's something I'm looking at with GG. Now, if the dollar moves higher, obviously we could lose the 200 and move lower. If we lost the 200 with Bollinger Bands in the situation that they are, starting to expand, flatten at the top, I expect to see these open up to indicate a move lower. Harmony I also looked at on Thursday, had quite a move. Almost got back up to the 10 EMA where I would have got into the trade, but I didn't. So we're sitting right on the 100 EMA presently. Same thing with all the other stocks. If the dollar moves lower, I would tend to trade this higher or bullishly. And if the dollar moves higher, conversely, I would take puts, spread or something. Not sure yet what I would take. IAG is holding up the best. IM Gold and Kindros managed to hold right at the 10 EMA and held above the 20. Okay, stochastics is starting to turn. So we'll watch what happens with gold or with the dollar. NEM, I traded this only because I'd been in and out of it over the past few days, and I saw this as a possibility to get back in it and trade it lower into Friday evening. I'm presently all out of NEM. NG is sitting right on this lower trend line depending on where you draw this pivot. Okay. And Bollinger Bands are moving apart. Stochastic still pointing lower. So this looks a little bit weaker than some of the other stocks. Something that you might want to take puts on or trade short. RGLD, this is one the big wave riders been playing. Double top. Okay, another man's cup and handle, but the handle broke down substantially as stochastics continue to move lower. We're sitting right on the 50 EMA or 50 period moving average. So if we lose this with the dollar moving higher, this could really drop quickly down to support level around 54, or maybe make it down to the 100 EMA. I doubt it gets down to the 100, but it's a possibility it could reach a support level anywhere between 56 and 56 actually looks good. I didn't see this over here. So 55 to 56. Okay, looks like a good support level for Royal Gold. Okay, this is Cousin Vinny coming to you from Day Trading Radio. Remember to take the 2-week free trial if you're not a member. Come and see us. We can talk about stocks in the room, and you can meet some professional traders that can help you with your trading. Take care, and we'll see you in the room. Remember to take profit.